Today on Thoughts from Space.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. Wait, where'd Colleen just go?
Oh,
Sorry.
I don't know what just happened.
Missing. Yeah.
Did I do that? Did you do
No,
that?
I tried to log in to the chat so I could make comments and stuff, and I didn't realize it changed screens so you could log in.
Oh.
It's my bad.
All good.
This is going great. I got stuck in a shirt earlier as well, so.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Relatable.
It was
relatable.
It was. I freaked out. I had to take my bra off, and Jay had to pull it over like my ribs and my arm. Then I smacked him in the face with my watch, and it was. Anyway, I'm chaos energy, prime chaos energy. You ready to talk Star Wars?
Hey, we love it here. Anyways, welcome everyone to Geek the F Out. On today's show, we're talking about episodes 6 and 7. Ooh, that was a weird noise. Of Ahsoka, and we are joined by these lovely women here. So we have, I guess I'm mirrored right now, Allison Troy. Welcome.
Hello.
And we have Colleen.
Hi.
And Miss Yoko.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining. Very excited to be here for this special stream. This stream is for the girls, aka women, gays, and theys. But if you do not fall under one of those categories, you are still more than welcome to this stream. Originally I wanted to call it the non-dudes of Star Wars, but it just didn't roll off the tongue as well.
Too many syllables.
Yeah. But I wanted to just put an emphasis on those people and showcasing different viewpoints, since there are so many white cis dudes with beards talking about this shit on the internet already. So, on a show that, has so many badass women in it, I feel like it is important for us badass women to talk about it as well. So anyways, excited to have all y'all here. And we're going to be discussing episodes 6 and 7, which episode 6 is titled Far, Far Away, and it is directed by Jennifer Getzinger. And episode 7 is titled Dreams and Madness and is directed by Geeta Vasant Patel, which didn't not even realize this until just now when I was writing down the directors, that they were both women. And I was like, wow, how fitting for this stream.
I didn't realize that.
Anyways,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, it's the universe. It was all meant to be.
For sure.
Before we get into it though, want to say hi to everyone in the chat. We have Chris, aka Shiny Plastic People. There's me, Lucha Johnny, my amazing co-host, who was very kind to bow out of this show. Cobweb, Make Mine Marvel's Legends. Yes, it is Colleen, the infamous The Holdo Maneuver, which we did a show with them last week about episode 6, and that was a lot of fun. We have Greg is in the chat, and Nightmare and Nemo. And welcome everyone.
Excellent.
Excited to talk some Ahsoka. What are your guys' initial thoughts on these two episodes before we get into the nitty-gritty of it? Allison, do you want to go first?
C-3PO, that was sort of I'm just gonna kind of jump. That was sort of my moment. It also was I was hoping we would get some, because I follow Billy Lord on, and because Space Mom's daughter is important to all of us, and she disappeared around May to June of last year, and I was like, well, she did have her second child, so may have been baby bump, but I was like, maybe they did some Rise of Skywalker magic, so I was almost, fingers crossed. I was slightly disappointed, but only until I realized Anthony Daniels was actually doing the 3PO voice, and then it was perfect, and it was a very this is very Leia, showing up wow, that's what, this was all planned. So and then new Mon Mothma, Genevieve, I just really have been appreciating overarching for the entirety of Ahsoka, how she has really taken sort of where, because we haven't seen Mon Mothma post Jedi yet in any of the media. It's always been pre A New Hope. And she really added, like, she's always had the Caroline Blankenshipness to her when she does Mon Mothma, but it was really, it felt on point. Like, everything she's brought to the character, plus, like, that blink and you miss it moment of Mon Mothma and Jedi. It's been really throughout the entire Ahsoka series, but it felt really focused in that scene with C-3PO. It was just like, I very much got that energy from Jedi that Caroline Blankenship had in Jedi, alongside what Genevieve has added. So it was just, and then they were in that awesome like auditorium that literally looked like where you would have gone in like 1979 or 1983 at school to like hear the, like, come to the gym hall thing and we're gonna talk about stranger danger. It had that look to it. Like, it just was very 1980. It's 1978 to 1983, and like just how it was even decorated. So whoever just set like props, like you nailed. It's just that's the room we would have got if George Lucas had needed that set in for Return of the Jedi. So
it was cute how she was like 3PO, like didn't say C. So I'm like, they're first name basis. That was really cute. What did you think, Colleen?
I actually I kind of rolled my eyes with the Leia thing. Honestly, really? I didn't like hate it, but I was kind of like, all right, this feels like they're jerking off fan service over here. Like they're like, let's see how many fan call outs we can do.
Leia didn't show up.
Well, if she had showed up, then I would have been like, all right, come on, guys. However, I didn't
extra.
Exactly. I didn't hate it, but it did feel kind of forced to me. Like it felt very forced, but forced. But other than that, I didn't hate it. I kind of rolled my eyes at that. And then
just overall 6 and 7. What did you think of them?
Overall 6 and 7 I liked. I think that 6 was, especially great. The whole thing, just the everything. I'm struggling now. I'm like, what happened in 6? I know what happened in 6.
Oh, yeah.
She found Ezra. That's right.
Yeah. No, I do the same thing. That is why on my notes, I've written down like every single little thing that happens because, I've watched them several times now, but could not tell you unless I looked at these notes. So I totally understand.
No, I think I like 6 a little bit better than 7, but I enjoyed the action scenes in 7. I do question, like, why does Sabine keep not telling Ezra like what the deal is? Like,
and
I'm very
toughie.
Yeah, and I'm very intrigued though to see what Balin is up to.
Yeah,
like I want to know what his like side quest thingy is. Yeah.
What about you, Yoko?
For me, episode 5 was like, is going to probably be peak Star Wars for me personally, at least, and so I don't want to say anything after that as a letdown because that sounds like I'm disappointed in the show and I'm not. Like I am loving it, but it is going to be, it can't be episode 5 every week. We're not going to have Anakin and Ahsoka reunited every time as much as I would love that. So, I still enjoyed it. I do think the Leia thing is just kind of more of an unfortunate circumstance situation, where like they have to acknowledge that she's around and they can't, it's either going to be a deep fake or a recast or like it's not going to be great anyway about it, but she has to be there because she is around, leading up to what we see in the sequel series. But also like it seems appropriate to me because she did make appearances here and there on Rebels too. So if you see this as an extension of Rebels, it's not so out of reach for me to have her there. I do think it's unfortunate because I get where you're coming from too, Colleen, that it feels forced, but like I think they don't have any way around that. So I think
it's probably good for people who aren't so familiar with the timeline in general to establish where we are in the timeline and what Leia is up to. But yeah,
it's interesting. A lot of people have theories that with this series, they're kind of just gonna say the sequel series like doesn't exist, and I'm like, I don't know about that one.
No,
Or
please,
they're
can we
trying
make
to
that
figure
happen?
yeah, I know. But yeah, there's been a bunch of theories or how I don't know, just like other people from Star Wars are gonna be involved somehow next episode, which totally could happen. But yeah, I just hope it's not too fan servicey. Let me go to the comments a little bit. Yeah, I think in terms of Sabine not telling Ezra, I think that yeah, she's afraid that he will be mad at her for that, which I totally understand. Yeah, and Greg also agrees that it feels forced. Totally get that. I kind of wish that maybe 3PO was just like, oh, like it was from someone else, like anyone else but her, because like
And
just seeing him itself was awesome.
yeah, but they could have slipped in a like, General Organisis or Senator Organisis hello or something like that too. But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just being curmudgeonly.
Oh
I'm
no, it's
very
fine.
infrequently curmudgeonly about anything. I generally eat it all up, but for some reason I just roll my eyes.
I mean, it had to come from someone high enough to shut up Ziona.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
that's
shut
true.
God, that
Yeah.
dude was a fucking asshole, and we will get to that because like oh, did not like him.
But he
Yeah,
was also like that in the oh god, the Resistance cartoon, because he was part of that, and like so he's at least consistent. Like he was
Yeah.
not pleasant in Resistance either, so which is criminally
Mhm.
underrated. I recommend anyone watch Resistance if you have not. It was really fun.
yeah. Yeah, and we were talking about Mon Mothma's awful husband, if she's still with him. I hope she's dumped his ass by now because he was a piece of shit.
I think she had to have. Maybe he gets killed.
Yeah, let's hope so. Hello, Eldor. Hi, Brian.
Oh yes, that was an interesting development. No,
Yeah,
Ezra
right?
being like,
Yeah,
I don't
Ezra
like you
doesn't
anymore.
want. Yeah, he very much pulled a Luke in that, and I know Brick, who isn't here right now, but he was saying how he wanted, to toss it like Luke did. I was like, oh, that would have been good, but
It
it's
was
okay.
it
Maybe
was
next time.
it was very Rogue One to me. I forget was it Cherut? I believe is how you say his name. Like the monk, but not really a monk. Yeah, it had that to me, and I actually enjoyed that because a lot of sort of what they were establishing with that character in Rogue One is part of sort of this you don't have to be a Jedi to like that's really coming full circle with Ahsoka. So I appreciate, because for me that felt like a callback to him. And obviously since he got blown up by the Death Star in Rogue One, he can't, like we don't, I mean, maybe they also can be Force ghosts or exposition ghosts, as I like to call them. But I like that as a callback to sort of remind us that there is this thing that you can do with the Force where you maybe not a Jedi and you don't necessarily need the weapons of a Jedi to get in touch with the Force. So for me, that was a nice, like, here's how we're exploring all of that. And it was just really subtle. And also I don't want Sabine to have to give the lightsaber away. So it worked in all the ways, because it's like, girl, that's yours now. You earned it.
It is.
It's like
And
she
the
didn't
fact-
want it, right? It's like,
yeah.
I almost felt like she wanted the excuse to not have it. Like, Ezra, take it.
Yeah, she keeps trying to shirk this
Yeah.
responsibility, and it's just like, it's you, ma'am, you already have it. Just seize the role and like go with it, because you keep ending up in these situations where you have to be responsible for people and saving people, and you have to do what's right, because that's what your character, like who you are at your, like your core. Like, stop trying to run away from it. Like, you can still like vandalize with your paintings on walls, even if you are a respectable person saving lives and being a Force person. So like, just girl boss it.
Yes, exactly. Did he end up using a blaster at one point? Didn't he turn down the blasters at first?
Yeah, I don't think he did.
I don't think he did. He literally said, like, the Force is all I need. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I hope you've been practicing these last, like, what 9-10 years that it's been. But yeah, to take it back a little bit, back at the beginning of episode 6, we start off with Ahsoka and Hu Yang in her ship in the Purgle, and he talks about the history of the galaxy, parts 1, 2, and 3. And Ahsoka says part 1 is the best. What did you guys think that, you know, he was referring to exactly? Because a lot of people are thinking of it in terms of like the prequel, the original, and the sequel trilogy, part 1, 2, and 3. But, you know, clearly this is a completely different universe than the normal Star Wars galaxy. So I think it has to be like something. How old is Hu Yang? Like 25,000 years old or something like that? It must be from the beginning of that time, I'm guessing. Yeah, somewhere around then.
I like that he started with a long time ago in a galaxy far,
Yes.
far away. So
Yeah.
that was super fun.
Yes.
That made
Yeah,
me misty.
I literally wrote down in all caps, he said the thing.
No, I like the theory too. It's like, what if all these movies have actually just been Hu Yang's retelling of, you know, what
That would be
the story of
amazing.
the story of the
kind of like
Skywalkers,
Bilbo.
right?
Yeah.
That was George Lucas.
Yeah.
I mean, one of George Lucas's very original ideas was the final, you know, like back when he was like, there will be like 15 episodes. Like his idea was the entire saga, you know, episode 1 through 15 would be told through the eyes of the droids, and one of the last scenes would be like 3PO or R2's memory banks sort of uploading, and like and that would be the end of the story. And it
Yeah, that
you know,
is
like,
so Bilbo of him.
yeah, and Star Wars,
Yeah.
I mean, like when people are like Star Wars is a Skywalker saga and people are like, no, it's not. It's like it kind of is, because originally it wasn't. Like originally Lucas called all of this the Journal of the Wills. So that was the entire story of the galaxy and all the other galaxies. And Star Wars was one of the adventures of Luke Skywalker that were part of the Journal of the Wills. So so because I'm that old of a nerd at this, and go back that far, it felt meta to me in a way where like they're kind of winking at those of us who know that history. For people who don't, it feels like it's meta if you only are familiar with like the prequels, the sequels, and the OT. It also kind of just works in world. It works within the context without any meta commentary on it. Also, like the long time ago, also it's just like that's something they say in this galaxy. This is how they start their story. So it just it worked on, for me, it worked on a lot of levels and felt really epic. Like it was a small way to show us the epicness so that we can, I think for some people who are having a hard time with the concept of, you know, our OT heroes, you know, like, well, you know, there's not really a way to have them end the sequels to the sequels, but also just, you know, Carrie Fisher has, I love you, Space Mom, wherever you are. She's left us. Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, they're, you know, like we're getting to a point where those of us who grew up with, you know, boomer heroes, like they're starting to leave us. Like, so we have to get in that headspace of sort of letting go of some of that attachment if we want Star Wars to continue on beyond that. So it just, I don't know, there were layers to it, and I enjoyed. To me, it feels like they're trying to remind fans that we're going to a different galaxy. It feels like they are trying to really open it all up for us so that those of us who are into it are getting what we love out of Star Wars. Like this, Ahsoka for me is the first time any of the Disney streaming shows have felt like Star Wars for me consistently. There are moments in The Mandalorian, moments in Obi-Wan. There were moments in I'm going to be generous.
Felt like Star Wars to me.
There were a few moments where it felt like new Star Wars, but this just felt like Star Wars. I haven't stopped and gone.
Especially
you know,
the little crab turtle creatures, very Star Wars.
There's a lot, you know, like I'm older than dirt. I, you know, saw Star Wars in a theater in 1970. I saw Star Wars in a theater in 1977 before it was A New Hope or an episode. But there, in those that first time, like I remember going, and I was super young, but it's like you remember because that cantina is just everything is so there's so much wonder like in that originalness, and I have felt way more of that than I did even for even in the prequel trilogies, like we got really cool big worlds and stuff, but like it felt like Star Warsy in a way that felt familiar, whereas some of this feels really not familiar in a way that
What do you mean?
Well, it's we're going to this other galaxy, and it's like we're finally starting to get some
It's supposed to not feel familiar.
Yeah, like to me, we're also getting like with this other galaxy, like Ezra is hanging out with like these basic like snail creatures. The design on them feels, even though we've gotten a lot of sort of creative aliens and creatures in Star Wars, especially post CGI, this is one of the first, like in the like the Three Witches, and like I feel like we're getting, it pays homage to the Dathomir and ties into Dathomir, but it also feels really different. We're getting references to Greek mythology, which blatantly so. It just, I don't know. It has a newness to it that also fits in with the oldness that Star Wars always had. Like, I don't know. I feel a lot of wonder and joy with this show, and it's kind of nice to like every episode I start of Ahsoka, I'm like, okay, this is the one that's gonna feel like every episode of Book of Boba Fett for me, where I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? Why? Oh God, I want to like all these kids. I want to like all these kids on the motorbike, but I can't. It's just so bad. Why?
I actually have like actively blocked out certain parts of Boba Fett because sometimes I like something will happen on like The Mandalorian. I'm like, okay, was this Boba Fett? Was this Mando? Was this something else? Like, I can't remember.
You mean Mando season 2.5, aka the second half of Boba Fett?
The second half of that, yes.
Yeah, totally.
And that was on around the same time as a bunch of the Marvel shows were on, and it was just everything was very blending together for me. It was very confusing time in my life to keep my fandom straight. Anyway, sorry.
Totally. Anyway, so beginning of episode 6, we had the Ahsoka and Huyang scene, which I have loved their banter, especially in episode 7 as well. It's been so good. And then we see Baylan, Shin, and Morgan and Sabine arrive at Peridia, and it's a planet that's surrounded by dead Purgles, which that was crazy to see the bones just like floating in space all around. And it's interesting that they apparently go there to die, which I think we talked about on either Holdo or on live action Star Wars, how not sure if maybe, not all the whales that go there die. Like it's kind of just like some whales go there to be with their loved ones who are about to die, or if it's just kind of like, they have other stops. Planetary Star Whale bone ring was fucking metal. Yeah, Johnny really liked it. Because we were predicting, we're like, if we're going to a whole other universe, then this place better be really fucking weird. And what other way to be weird besides a fucking space whale
graveyard
bone ring?
Space graveyard. Yeah.
Exactly. I thought it was really cool. And then they have like the big statues on the planet too. And then we meet with the Great Mothers, which already talked about their links to Greek mythology. And it's interesting that they keep talking to Sabine in returns of it. They're like, it reeks of Jedi, like it is dangerous, like we're gonna take it down to the whatever. But very interesting that they said that it reeks of Jedi, but didn't talk about Shin or Baylan, or at least Baylan as being Jedi or former Jedi. He was. I don't know what the distinguished, difference was, I guess.
Right, because they're all force wielders.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on, Baylan, of course, says, like, I trained you to be more than a Jedi, essentially. Yeah, you oh no, never mind. Yeah, but it's very curious. Like you said before, Colleen, I'm very curious what this like power Balin talks about is, and that's when he first mentions it, is at the beginning of that episode. And then later on he mentions, it's something that existed a long time ago, and there's been this pattern throughout history of, empires rise and fall, but this is something that will persist and start like a new beginning. I
Right.
just Go
We
ahead.
actually rewatched this evening the trilogy of episodes in Clone Wars with the daughter, the son, and the father. So it was kind of, that's sort of like the Force stuff is kind of on my mind. But do you think that whatever presence that Balin felt, whatever power, is what trained Ezra to not have to use the lightsaber anymore? And if so, is that a force of good, evil, or something in between?
Ooh, good question. I mean, I think not having to use the lightsaber, that's always, it's something we've always associated with the Jedi, but at the same time, it is the Force that they wield that really makes them Jedi. The lightsaber is just kind of like an extra tool of sorts. So I have no idea if he did connect.
I
That
mean,
would
and
be
don't
cool to
forget,
find out.
Ezra's had the power of both holocrons too, right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot
Mhm.
in his brain. So I think with
Yeah.
he's by himself
I
there
always
for
forget about
the
that.
decade or however long it is. Like I think he might have all that knowledge in his head, and he just has to unlock it at this point. From
That's a good point.
from the holocron. So I think with all that time on his hands, I think maybe
Yeah.
A lot
That's
of
what I'm thinking
meditating.
too. Yeah.
What else are
Did
you
a
going
lot
to
of
do? Alone in another
meditating, a lot of
galaxy.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's what I figured. What do you think, Allison?
Well, I was just thinking, because of what Yoko said, I was just thinking about how Ezra was the one who figured out how to open the world between worlds and rescued Ahsoka. When you said that, it just reminded me of that, because he without sort of getting into Rey or like even Anakin, it almost feels like he's sort of got the path of like a chosen one without them actually saying that, because like he, even in Rebels, through a lot of his journey into becoming a Jedi, it was less about him. It was a big deal when he got the lightsaber, and it was a special modified lightsaber originally for him. But it also seems like this sort of feels really in line, because a lot of his journey seems to be less about becoming a Jedi so much as figuring out how to use the Force in a way that only he so far has shown any aptitude with. So my mind just went to Geek Town, like putting everything together from like Rebels with this, and like appreciating sort of the writing of it. So
Okay, because I had a follow-up to that line of thinking of like, Ezra's maybe tapping into something, or what Yoko said was quite brilliant, or good point. So it was kind of random that the witches were able to find Ahsoka in like 10 seconds, and like Ezra's like 3 miles down the street, and they didn't know where he was for so long. So I thought maybe it was like cloaking him or protecting him, or he learned how to, because right, that was kind of random that they could find like anything except the dude that's next door. So.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like Thrawn, he's very much like, if we don't have to deal with them, we don't need to, because he's always been about seeing the big picture with things. And I'm wondering if Ezra, for him, he's like, he's not a threat. Like, what is he going to do against all these
what's he going to do?
Shibari
Bring me to
night
another
troopers?
galaxy?
Yeah. Which, like, I would love to know what has happened there in the last 10 years. Like, yeah, that would be a cool spinoff as well. And maybe they'll show some flashbacks next season, but I don't think we're going to find out anything this season. Yeah, speaking of the Kintsugi Shibari night troopers, those catacombs or like coffins that they were bringing up from the catacombs, what the fuck are those? Any
That is the
guesses?
question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any theories?
I mean,
There'll be
I
a
still
great-
think,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. No.
I was going to say, I still think, like we didn't get the zombie trooper reveal this episode, but I still think that's coming at some point. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. So I don't know if some of it has anything to do with that. Like, are the bodies actually? I don't know, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm very curious, like
Yeah.
who are even under the night trooper suits, and
Yeah.
I just kind of think maybe there are more of them, or just like more zombies that they're gonna make into troopers, or if they have some special abilities because they've been sitting in these coffins for so long.
Mhm.
Especially if there is this big power on this planet. I think I can't find it now, but someone mentioned why couldn't Ahsoka feel this power that Balin did? That is a good point, but maybe because it is a more evil or dark side power, then maybe that's why she doesn't
It could
sense
also
it.
be that her mission right now is to find Sabine, right? So she might not be
Mhm.
paying attention to other things. On that note, too, I think this came up in the chat too. I think maybe Thrawn's thing is he's always 2 steps ahead of everyone, right? So he's anticipating that Ahsoka's looking for Sabine. So maybe it is in that moment of her her trying to connect with Sabine. That's how the Night Sisters were able to find her. Like, that makes sense to me too. Like, he knew
Yeah,
that's what she would be doing, and so in that moment, maybe it made her more vulnerable to be found or to be
that's
sensed.
true.
Oh, yeah,
That's
a
very
good one.
true. Yeah, if all your energy is focused on one thing. I mean, just like anyone in real life, if you have something that you're focused on, and yeah, you tend to miss some other things, and that is life. So yeah, the Sabine meets with Thrawn, and he essentially just like lets her go to Ezra because we were just talking about he seems to always see the bigger plan, but then sends Balin and Shin after her and says like get rid of them. And so Balin, kind of essentially breaks his word with Sabine. But can we talk about the howlers real quick? the bat rat horse dog things and how cute they are.
Yes.
I'm a I'm a big fan of them, and I loved Sabine's interaction with her howler, and how he ran away and she got upset with him. Also kind of reminded me of Cosmo from Guardians, and how I forget his name. The James, what is it? Sean Gunn's character in Guardians. Yeah, he was like bad dog, and that's exactly what it reminded me of, because then he like cowered and hid behind her. Yeah, Tota, which I think is the command to lay down, because then I noticed in episode 6 when the naughty they tell the one that the Sabine finds, he's like signaling to the other ones to stand up. He says Toto. So I'm like, is Toto to, I don't know. I'm just like so used to listening. Yeah, I'm so used to hearing commands for dogs that I think I just like clicked onto that. Because I also like to use different words to give commands to my clients.
Yeah.
or else I'll do it in Spanish instead. But yeah, I thought he was really cute. Anyways, but there was when she stops and then is trying to look at the locator thing for Ezra, he's kind of sniffing the air, sniffing around, and instantly I was like, if an animal is sniffing in the air and looking around, like it's probably not a good place to stop. Like
Right.
I don't know, maybe keep going.
Right.
But yeah, the little crab turtle creatures, they recognize the logo on Sabine, and they're like, oh, like we know that. And yeah, they're the ones that end up taking them to Ezra. Which, how did we feel about this Sabine Ezra reunion? I kind of already heard your thoughts a little bit, Yoko, on
Yeah.
Boba Squadron, but I mean, you can tell them again, or if you maybe feel a little bit differently now at all, or same
No,
same
because
feelings.
no, I still feel the same as after seeing, like Ahsoka and Ezra's reunion was so much more satisfying. Like I was like, that's a hug, Where
Yes,
I'm
I
like
agree.
on the rewatch, I was like, no,
Mhm.
this Sabine Ezra reunion is still a little disappointing. It's a little lackluster, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
What did you guys think, Allison or Colleen?
Well, first, I've said this elsewhere, so I apologize for anyone. This is a retread. My first thought, because this is my first live action Ezra. My first thought is it really him, or is it,
I thought that too. Yeah.
I just had that moment, and I don't know if maybe they wanted us to think that, or if it's literally just, I have only ever seen an animated Ezra, and this was a flesh and blood. I mean, I don't think they would do that. As well, and at this point, if they do that, they're jerks. Dave Filoni, we've got beef at this point, because I have now attached to him as Ezra. I mean, it happened within a few. It for me happened when he asked her the question. When he asks her that question, and she doesn't want to answer she like gives this look like it was a very Star Wars, but it was also very Sabine, like let's not talk about that, but we've got problems later. But I started
avoidance attachment 101.
Yeah. At that point, I became invested, because at that point I'm like, oh, Sabine believes it's him, and like I'm just being me and being suspicious, but
there's only one episode left. I can't imagine it not being Ezra.
It was just for me. It was just
plot twist.
Initial first second, like, how do we know that's Ezra? Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
because it was so easy how you found him. But it also helped. It took me a little bit longer to warm to the actress playing Hera. Because she
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, and I like her. I loved her as the Huntress.
And we love those pants.
It took me a little bit longer to warm to her, because she doesn't
look like her.
She doesn't at all. Frankly, I'm used to most Twilight being not white women, like underneath the makeup, and so that threw me, because Sabine has always looked. I would have expected an actress from like Northern Africa, or like, more Western Asia, like almost closer to the middle. So it threw me a little bit.
Wait, for Hera or Sabine?
For Hera. Like, okay. Sabine was fine. Hera, it took me a while to sort of adjust, because I feel like with Ezra and Sabine, they've got actors and actors we're doing actors. That's how old I am. I have to remember, we just say actors now. They've got actors that look close enough to the animation that like I immediately accepted Sabine. I distrusted that it was Ezra, because we're in a different galaxy and it was too easy. But once I got past that, but it took me a while to warm to Hera, but I did not have that with Ezra. It was just, as soon as that moment happened, I'm like, okay, it's definitely Ezra. And I definitely need them to not say that they have feelings for each other until the last minute, right before it's too late. I need Ezra's story to continue.
I don't know if they need to do that.
I don't need either of them to die like Kanan did, but that moment where like Ezra and Kanan have in Rebels right before Kanan leaves us, like that moment, that was when I'm like, yes, I'm here for Rebels, because that devastated. I had to stop right there and walk. I'm getting a little misty talking about it.
I wasn't even thinking about any of them dying, so I'm like, what?
Right. But they can't.
Now you won't be able to forget it.
They cannot do that to me, because I am literally cheering up at the thought of that scene with Kanan.
No.
But I do. I enjoy the will they or won't they of Ezra and Sabine, and I would rather them just have a moment. And again, one of them, like last time, Ezra had to go to the other side of the, like leave to protect them from Thrawn.
Yeah.
It is masochistic, and we know they're building to a big movie. So as masochistic as it sounds, I would love if this one ends with the roles reversed, where Sabine has to like do something where she ends up lost or on the other side of the galaxy, and they're apart again because she makes that big sacrifice, and because we're all thinking it's going to be Ahsoka. Like the story feels like it's building toward Ahsoka making this big sacrifice.
Oh, see, I don't feel that. I think they're
right. They're not going to live happily ever after. What are you talking about?
Right.
I feel if anybody's going to make a sacrifice, it's going to be Sabine, because she needs to prove herself, because we've seen her struggling.
Do we think Sabine is going to show Force abilities by the end of the season? By next episode?
I mean, she just did when she heard Ahsoka's voice.
I don't know if that was part of it, just because I think anyone with Force abilities can go into someone else's head if they have that strong enough connection, like Hu Yang was saying. I don't know if the other person necessarily has to have Force abilities to be able to hear it, though.
Fair
enough. I think she will. I think she'll show it for sure.
I feel like the only reason Sabine hasn't shown Force abilities is because she is so resistant to the idea of having Force abilities. It's very, and if we take all of Star Wars, even Legacy, into account, in the Legacy era, Legends era, before that all kind of got wiped away, there was stories that like Mandalorians and Jedis had this humongous, and some of that sort of like was carried over, but it was really intensely implied pre-Disney timeline that Mandalore and Jedi just did not mesh. So for me, it's always, whenever it was first mentioned Sabine had this potential, it always made sense that she would not run to embrace it, because for her people, the Jedi weren't so great. And, like with what they've done, it makes sense that she might be resistant to being a Force user, because, Darth Maul and sort of everything that went down with that. So I think the only reason we haven't seen it from Sabine is she is resistant to the idea, and she's still fighting it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to get, that big moment where she lets go of her fear and, has that. We're not going to get Obi-Wan voice, I doubt, unless, Ewan was on set that day and they're like, hey, just call out across the set, like, let go of your fear, Sabine. And if they do that, I'm here for it, but, not going to count on it. But I feel like that I think we'll see something, but I think that's the only reason we haven't seen it, is she is so resistant to, again, it's part of the whole arc of Sabine. She's resistant to stepping into the hero role. And it's like, she's obviously a hero. She has a heart for it. And it's just like, she doesn't believe in herself enough yet. And that's what we need from her. And then everything after that, it's like, Sabine, believe in yourself like we believe in you. That's what we need from Ewan off stage when he's, visiting.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
So something Allison just triggered something in my head too, is like, how Ahsoka's arc has been, she's been carrying this guilt with her all this time, and she's finally let it go. And I think maybe it is actually the same thing with Sabine. Like she's carried this guilt with her whole life too. Like, from when she was in the Imperial Academy to whatever has happened with her family that we still don't really know about. And Ezra's disappearance too, she probably blames herself for that, even though she couldn't have done anything about it. So maybe it's the same thing where like Ahsoka had this moment where she had to let that go and choose to live. Sabine has to do the same thing too.
Yeah.
Could see that. Any other thoughts about episode 6 before we move on to 7? I feel like 7 is very fresh in our minds right now. So
I also wasn't thrilled with the Sabine Ezra reunion. All that, it's just like, oh hey, you been a minute, right?
Yeah.
What's up, friend?
Like the fact they didn't just like run and embrace
Immediately
each other.
hug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ezra, I'm assuming you haven't seen another human being in 10 years. I mean, I would be happy if my best friend just showed up and found me.
Right?
But
Right?
I'm that
I don't know.
person. Like I was, you know, like saw my best friend since like middle school. Right after the pandemic, she came to Portland to visit, and it was like, oh hey, good to see you. And then later we had that moment, but for like the first 2 or 3 hours, it was just like, yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how I felt about Ezra the actor. Was it Iman something? Iman something?
Yeah.
But I really liked him in 7, which I know we'll get to.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying the thing for me with Ezra is like his eyes are so like such a big physical trait, like where I was just like, but where are those blue purple eyes? The contacts
Right.
aren't bright enough.
Yeah, they're just not. Yeah, they're very dark. Very dark.
That's such a superficial thing because, again, I don't think Mary Elizabeth Winstead looks like Hera whatsoever.
Yeah.
Side note, did you see the mock-up of the Hera vintage collection doll? They have the freaking badonk is on there.
Oh.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
I have not seen it yet.
Oh my gosh.
It was on the Twitters where somebody had a picture that was going around and
of the one
it was posed in a way that, you know.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, I feel like Ezra was more Ezra-y in episode 7.
Well, you got more than 30 seconds of like, hey you, what up, slut? Like screen time.
Exactly. That's exactly how it went down.
Canon.
Yeah. I think his eyes were more obvious, and I'm wondering. It's funny because it kind of reminds me how at the end of episode 4 we see Anakin, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, his CGI or his like de-aging is horrible." But then episode 5, it was actually pretty good. And I'm wondering if people complained about his eyes in episode 6, so they made him brighter in episode 7. I don't know if they could do that fast, but you know,
or maybe
if
the
HBO
budget...
can take away Starbucks cups in an hour.
or maybe it's just there was a budget for episode 6 that didn't include getting the blue eyes on point, and it was there for the next episode. You know, like it's literally budget per episode, so.
Oh, I know. It was a very superficial point.
No, it's a good point though, because I'm you said that, and I'm like, I wonder if that's the other reason. At first, I was like, it's not really him. It wasn't just that it was live action, but also the blue eyes weren't as. Kevin. So no, I'm glad you said that because I'm now feeling not better, but it now makes more sense why I had that reaction, other than just being a suspicious person. Like I distrustful and suspicious of everyone.
I was with you though on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I was so just like disappointed in that hug. Like I don't know, you know,
right.
that like I didn't like he just wasn't doing it for me that episode. But I did love him in this last.
Yeah, no, 7 he hit like it
hit different.
Yeah. It landed gracefully.
So speaking of 7, we start off with Hera being interrogated, and we talked about it a little bit before with Mon Mothma, and I fucking loved Hera's line where she was like, "I protected the New Republic by ignoring you."
That was great.
Yono.
Yeah.
I was like, go the fuck off, because Yono was a piece of shit. He was very much, he just, remind me of certain people in the political sphere that are just, deny what's
or like,
right
in the office, there's always someone like
right.
that.
He's the one who's like, Mon Mothma is like saying something. He's like, well, actually, Mon, it's like, actually, I'm about to boot kick you through that starport. So thanks.
And oh my god, when he said mirror droids and Chopper was about to go off on him, Carson was like, no. Gotta hold you back.
Carson. Yeah.
I will say the actor playing Chopper has been spot on for this entire series. I have never doubted Chopper.
Isn't it Dave Filoni?
I don't know.
Is he still voicing
It's
Chopper?
I don't know. Like, yeah. I'm just saying.
Who's ever controlling the mechanics of the droid for sure.
Yeah, right. No, Chopper has been on point. Like that was perfect. Like
Yeah, and then we get C-3PO showing up, which it was funny because before he came on screen, he said, "How rude." I was like, "Oh, cute." Yeah, and he's like, "I speak on behalf of Leia. The mission was authorized, blah blah," and that kind of like puts an end to things. Yes, and then Tiva got to talk to C-3PO. And I was like freaking out because I was like, Paul, he got to talk to 3PO. And I know he couldn't even talk about it on Boba Squadron. But
yeah, it's so tough for him. Yeah. But in the few minutes we had before like Boba Squadron started, we're like, oh my god, C-3PO knows you, Paul, and Princess Leia knows you, like,
Yeah.
it's like being able to say that to him. I mean, then he can't comment on it further, but we're like, they know you. And you got to hold back Chopper. That's so cool. Yeah. So we can't wait to be able to talk to him more in depth.
We just need an action figure of Carson Teva now. Like, come on. What are they doing?
Yeah.
I need a lot of action figures from this entire. I need those witches, like in the vintage collection in Black Series.
The Sanderson sisters.
I need those coffin things. Like it's been very toyetic. Like
very.
I think that's the other reason it's very Star Warsy for me is like I can picture everything on my shelf, on a card. Like I need it all. Hook me up, Hasbro.
Need it all. And yet they came out with the fucking Mando judge. Like, why do we need that?
Yeah.
So dumb. But yeah, and we get more of Ahsoka and Huyang antics when she kind of keeps messing with him. It's pretty funny. And she's like, that's just my style. And then she's like, I think the odds are pretty good. And he's like, the odds are pretty good. What are you talking about? I've told you a million times. And she's like,
yeah, that was fun.
I know. Yeah, and so they show up in the Imperial minefield, and which as soon as they were like something is wrong, I was like, oh fuck, they're already like shooting at them, and I was expecting like ships to be shooting at them, but it ended up being the minefield, and then there was that one line too where Huyang was, at least the whales are providing some cover, and of course they leave right after that, and she's like, you had to say something. God damn it. But I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like right after that they show a shot of Peridia, and it has the Eye of Sauron, as I call it, and it literally looked like the fucking Death Star, and I was like, I wonder if they kind of shot that imagery that way on purpose.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, I didn't notice until my third time watching it. But yeah, then they have some fighters come after them, and they ended up hiding in this like in the graveyard, as they call it. But yeah, and then Thrawn finds out that Ahsoka's master was indeed Anakin Skywalker, which everyone or most people.
How did he not know that?
I don't know. That's what I was wondering.
Isn't there like Bad Guy Central where they just all know the other bad guys and their relationship?
Because they were able to find that information fairly quickly. So yeah, I'm like, why? How didn't he already know?
But he knows who Vader is, like an Anakin. And
and
he knows that they're one and the same.
Yeah. Not everyone knows that. Well, it's even at this timeline, not everybody knows that.
But Thrawn does from the books, I believe.
Yeah. In the books, he figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, because they did Zahn did the like dual. I think there were two of. I did them as audio books, so they just played until it was all over. So I don't know how many books it actually was, but Thrawn figured it out based on body language. But also for that, again, because of all the continuity and canons that I've had in my head since. So I don't know if this remains true or not, but it was said at one point in something post-Jedi Legacy, now I don't, that a lot of the records from before the Empire were purged or locked in a way where not everyone had access to them. So I don't know that even Thrawn at his level would have had access to all of that, and anything related to Vader was especially locked down because it was not supposed to be known that Vader and Anakin were one and the same, especially because the Jedis were these evil war criminals. So I for me, like, that made sense. Like, but again, I don't know which, and Dave Filoni may not be quite sure which canon we're in either at this point because he's pulling so much over here.
I
So
refuse to believe he doesn't have whiteboards upon whiteboards upon whiteboards.
I think he does, but you grab the wrong book and don't pay too much attention to like the legacy on the front of it, and the next thing you know is you're like, you've got it written that it's something that only happened in a book that no longer happened. So I
also, like, I could be wrong too, but I read the books. I don't remember them super well. You know, this Thrawn the canon Thrawn or it's, I guess, more than trilogy now, but those 3 books I have read, and I really enjoyed the one with Anakin actually. But I think that might have been when Ahsoka was out of the picture, like after she left the Jedi Order, so she might not have been his Padawan at the time. You know, so maybe like she never came up when Anakin and Thrawn had interacted. I don't know.
Well, he met Thrawn when Anakin met Thrawn. There was yet another assassination attempt on Padme that required her to show up long enough to threaten and then disappear completely from the narrative, so that nobody has to write Padme effectively or with any sort of agency. And then it was just Thrawn and Anakin doing their thing, because they're dudes, while Padme is off in a corner somewhere dying of a broken heart and bad writing. But
we're not gonna go down that road.
I'm not. I live on that road, so like, it just happens via osmosis. I have to remind everyone that whatever George Lucas. Anyhow, yeah. So, I don't. My memory is that everything about Vader was hidden, especially, but most Jedi records were so that people couldn't go figure out. Because if you have access to that information, you are going to see those records where the Jedis did good deeds, and that makes it a lot harder to force the narrative that Palpatine wanted, that you needed for the Empire to remain in control. Like, the second people start saying, oh, well, you're just burning books. Like, this is evil. Instead of, well, the Jedi filled these books with horrible things. Let's burn them. Like, the second people can read the stuff and figure it out for themselves, you lose. So, so that's part of why it happened before. But also anything with Anakin, because Anakin is dead now. I'm only Vader. It's like, okay, sir, whatever. You keep taking that mask off. We can see otherwise, Hayden. But.
Yeah. Speaking of Palpatine, so we go down to these little armadillo housing, mobile houses, mobile homes, and Sabine and Ezra are talking, and she's kind of, catching him up on everything and talking about the Battle of Endor and the New Republic, and then she mentions Zeb, which was exciting. Don't know if we'll see him next episode, but at least we got a mention.
He popped up in Mandalorian, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard for me to keep track of all the different. Right.
Okay. Yeah, there's so many now.
I think we need whiteboards in our houses. With
yeah.
We need it like right here.
The time.
Well, I need when each character shows up, I need like the like Chiron on the bottom of the screen to be like, Zeb appeared in blah blah blah, also made appearances in.
Ooh, like VH1 used to do pop-up video just every time you'll remember this character from Marvel Comics 72.
Yeah, somebody make that like a special feature on the DVD is you can turn on pop-up video info or turn it off.
Yeah. I'm in.
Almost kind of like Amazon Prime, and they have all that info, but we need that.
Oh yeah.
In terms of the actual, series or whatever. That would be
I forgot. Yeah,
awesome.
Prime does that. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think. Yeah, I think it's more so just like fun facts or just like facts about the people, and not so much about the show. But I don't know. I don't watch.
Yeah.
I don't look at those things that much, but I did like when Sabine said that's what people say in term like right after Ezra said the Emperor died, because
Yes, that's what people
somehow
say.
Palpatine returned. So I thought that
And I'm
was
like, ugh,
interesting
I
how
wish
she
that
threw it
one
in
I had
there.
forgotten about.
Yeah, but that was in Dark Empire comics back in like 1993, 94-ish. Like there was a comic book where he came back through shifted his consciousness into a clone body halfway across the galaxy, and he was back.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like everyone whines, including myself. So I'm everybody. We all whine about that in Rise of Skywalker, but literally JJ just took that right from a comic book everybody claimed to have loved until I never loved it, but everyone else claimed to have loved it. I didn't like that series. It was gross.
I have
but
been
anyway.
calling them naughty, but I also like calling them crab turtle people. Were you gonna say something, Yoko? I don't know.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
I
I started
thought
thinking about the
yes.
naughty.
The naughty.
Speaking of turtles, somebody today in a group chat I'm in referred to Mitch McConnell as Darth Turtle, and I laughed for like a solid 5 minutes.
Aww.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
I don't want that figure, Hasbro. Hasbro, you can pass on that one. I'm good.
That is absolutely amazing. Wow.
I don't know why that's never come up before. Anyway, sorry.
That is
It now lives
that's
in
great.
my head for all time.
We love tangent time. We need to make a banner for that segment. Anyway, so then so not Ahsoka. Sabine is still kind of skirting Ezra's questions of, how did you get here? Like, where is Ahsoka? And she's just like, it's complicated. And, she kind of just like avoids all that. And back with Thrawn, he tells he has the Great Mothers find Ahsoka in the graveyards. And then back with Ahsoka and Huyang, Huyang can't locate Ahsoka, so then she uses the Force to find Ahsoka to find Sabine.
We can't find Sabine, yeah.
Oh my god, yes, so many names. She uses the Force to find Sabine, which was cool, and just in time because of course the Great Mothers located them at that same exact moment. So they fly down, but then she doesn't go straight to Sabine though. She has to take care of Zaddy Balin first, of course, which that was pretty fucking epic, but we'll get to that in a second.
I'll give you that.
Oh, yes, indeed. Rest in peace, Zaddy. And so, but Balin and Shin part ways, which is interesting. I think we all kind of predicted that Shin would, either rebel or just like question what he's doing, because she's already been questioning what he's doing. But it's interesting to tell her, like, you have a different direction. You need to go that direction now, and I will go mine. What did you guys think of that? Did you feel like that was like a satisfying reason for them, or were you expecting a little bit more of like her rebelling or something like that?
I don't think it was out of character for her to not rebel or whatever. I don't know. I'm very curious about the Balin side tangent. I'm also I'm curious about what we're going to see with Shin, like what's going to happen with her now, because she's stranded there too.
Yeah,
she's going to come back, and then she and Sabine going to end up as besties, and then she and Ezra and Sabine can have a threesome, and everybody's happy, and we're all good, or...
That would be amazing. Yes, I mean, there's already been some pictures of Shin and Sabine holding hands. They're like, they're girlfriends. I'm like, yes, they are. I mean, Shin, hottie,
they have more chemistry
H-O-T-T.
than Sabine and Ezra. Yeah.
Shin Hottie, spelled H-O-T-T-I-E, FYI. I mean, she is my girlfriend, but I will, her and Sabine can be together too. That's fine. Yes, we're all poly. It's great. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like rebellion, I meant more so like her break away from Balin, being like, I don't like what you're doing, that's why I'm leaving. Instead of him saying, you can go off now, like, I'm gonna do my own thing. You do your own thing. But I guess it works too. I didn't have too much of a problem with it. And then
it surprised me how it happened. It felt like we saw the split coming, but I didn't see it coming right there. So I was like, oh yeah. So I'm not mad at it. But it did surprise me. It felt sudden. And again, it's accurate to her character how she just had no emotion, right? It was just like, okay. But
I don't know if Colleen is gone or did she? Oh, she is gone. Anyways, yeah. So then we have the armadillo versus bandits, and that whole fight scene between them, which is kind of fun because the naughties start using slingshots, and Sabine's like,
right? Yeah. I'm like, he must have thought. I forgot about that. That's a fun little Easter egg. Yeah, I forgot about the slingshots.
That was my first thought. I'm like, oh, he taught them how to make slingshots.
Yeah, that was super cute. And yeah, Sabine's like, do they have anything more than that? And he's like, they're a peaceful people. That was really cute. But yeah, they ended up having to stop because he's like, I don't want to leave anyone behind because one of their little armadillos got shot, and let's see, that's I think when that's when Shin shows up, and Sabine says she's like you but lacks your sense of humor.
Ginger.
Oh, there's a pussy. Oh, baby. Hi, baby. Pause for pussy. Hi, cutie. Which one's this one again?
This is Lucy this time. I think it might have been Larry last time.
It was Larry last time.
Yeah.
I made a joke in chat for Michael of Toy Habits, just basically saying, oh, I bet Larry doesn't help Yoko very much with her live streams. So it's an in-joke for Toy Habits fans. But anyway.
I got that. Yes, that is perfect, Johnny. Pause for pause. We'll have to make that a segment as well. That's really
cute. The beans. I love when the gingers have both of my gingers have those pink beans. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Happy kitty.
So cute.
I can hear the purr.
Yeah, she's
that is such a loud purr. Oh my gosh. What a cutie pie. Okay, now I'm distracted.
All right. Yes.
Anyways, so she's like you, but lacks your sense of humor. Ahsoka casually jumps out of a plane in a very badass. Yes, we have a loaf cat on screen. And then it's Ahsoka v. Balin, which I mean, it was pretty epic. I felt like it wasn't quite as epic as their first lightsaber duel. I really liked the minutia of that first duel and how they kept changing their LOL positions.
Yeah.
Before they, started fighting. Now the purr. You got to stop with the purr and being so cute. I can't. No, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to put her down. It's
good
fine.
For me.
Yeah. What did you guys think about that fight though?
I'm waiting for someone to explain to me why she went, why she went back to two.
Why she ran away?
Yeah. No. Why she went, how she used the one for one hilt.
She used the one because
and then she went back to two. Yeah.
Wasn't she doing it a different style of fight? Because actually, Jay explained this to me when she was doing it. He's like, "Oh, she's fighting this style," and I was like, "Cool, I'm never gonna remember that," and I didn't.
Right.
But I remembered that it was a style,
right?
And then I guess maybe she just was just like, "All right, I've had it with you. Like, I'm just gonna throw that."
I'm trying to understand style. Yeah, her thought process of like why she did it that way the last time and why she went back to her.
I think she probably had a bigger command over, like focus with the one, right? Like she could do it like more. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if it did have anything to do with the holovids from Anakin. I was thinking about that because she did have this separate time to train. Yeah. I mean, because she's Ahsoka the White now, so she's a whole new person. Yeah. But yeah, and then Hu Yang kind of comes in to save the day because Balin's like, you can't beat me. And she's like, I don't have to. Perfect timing with Hu Yang coming in, saving the day. And then she takes his howler and goes, bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a fun moment. I really enjoyed like it was oh, if I don't fall over on my chair here. It was a very appropriate in-universe humor thing, like, and it felt very Ahsoka. It reminded me of her cheekier days in Clone Wars, where it was like we often got like a sassy, like there was just younger Ahsoka before everything, for obvious reasons, of course, but everything obviously toward the end of Clone Wars got really dark. But the first few seasons, rewatching them, I appreciated it. Originally, I did not appreciate Ahsoka until much later in Clone Wars, but rewatching them, like I kind of like the sort of like mirthiness of her before, and I also, when that happened and she had the little quippiness and like that glint, I was like, well, maybe this is part of why people, some people had that reaction of like, is she too serious in Ahsoka? And I wasn't having that because I didn't actually pay as much attention to her in Clone Wars until it started getting dark and she started becoming serious. And then, and of course, Rebels, she's, the whole time, like, and then she gets stuck for minutes for her, but like a couple of years for everyone else, like fighting Vader in that temple. So like, but then I was like, well, maybe this is why they're having that reaction, because there are a lot of people who imprinted on Ahsoka immediately, and she was very much more mirthy and quippy, and there was more of a sense of humor to her those first few seasons of Clone Wars before we get to their whole reason, like for that series to exist. So for me, that also clicked in that moment. But it also, again, it's now that she's, Ahsoka the White, I guess that's what we're officially going with. Now that that's her,
yes,
like,
it is.
It feels in line with her maybe picking up more of the quippiness, more of that humor, more of that mirth. She doesn't...
Because she's let go of that guilt.
Yeah, like all the guilt, all of the... and it's like, if
she
you think about it...
basically went through therapy, like years of therapy in like 1 second.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
And who hasn't done that before?
We've all had that. It's called college and microdosing.
Yes, you release your egos. Anyways.
Like they say in the movie, let it go. Let it
go. Oh my God, my mom was literally saying as she was scrolling through movies on the TV and she saw Frozen, she's like, I need to see that. I'm like, I guess you can. But I don't think she's ever seen it. I was like, that's such a random one to pick out.
Right.
Anyways. So says he can't defeat him. And she goes, peace out. And we kind of go back to Ezra, Shin, and Sabine fighting. And then, Ahsoka the White comes in to save the day. Very, very Two Towers style, showing up in first light on the 5th day. And, very, very fitting. Because the night troopers show up too. So they got all the bandits and now they have to deal with the night troopers as well. But then they leave too and leave Shin, and that's when Ahsoka tells Shin, like, I can help you. But she decides to run away anyways, so that's fine. And I loved Hu Yang's line that says, they're all back together. I hope I survive long enough to see that outcome.
Yeah.
He's so good. And I love David Tennant. He's great.
Yeah.
And then we kind of go back to see Thrawn and his reaction to all this, which also he realized that Balin has gone missing, which he doesn't really care about, but he was surprised that happened. And, he's okay that, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra kind of won that one because in the long run that, killed time for them while they were loading all the coffins onto the ship. And, because Morgan Elsbeth was like, oh, but they're reuniting, and he's like, no, I'm playing the long game here, lady. Like, trust me, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, and at the end, I thought it was funny how Ezra was confused why Sabine thought Ahsoka was dead. Because I mean, that would be me too. I'd be like, wait, what? She was dead?
Like, oh, that's why you didn't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna have a lot to catch up on. Yeah, I did think the end was like a little bit cheesy, wherein Ezra was like, I think I might be going home after all, and he's like holding the Naughty's hand.
I know,
But
right?
that's what makes me so uncomfortable, because it's like it wrapped up so nicely, and I'm like, all right, let's just end it here, right? Like, and they lived
Yeah.
happily
Well, I
ever
mean-
after, but we have this whole, one more episode to go, and like, it's not going to be that clean.
No.
I
So
think-
are we getting
yeah.
another season, or is this just going to directly tie into the movie?
I don't think we have any idea.
We don't know.
right? Yeah.
I want
gotta
another
be one or the
season.
other.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I think there is going to be another season, whether that comes first or the movie does. Like, it would make more sense to have another season than a movie, I think. But I don't know, could be interesting to also have the movie in the middle and the second season to be kind of like the fallout of that movie. What is it called in a book at the end? Resolution?
Epilogue.
Not quite the epilogue, but
Conclusion?
I don't know.
To be
Like,
continued?
the parts of the story, like,
Cliffhanger?
no, there's like, the building of the story, which I'm forgetting that term too. There's the climax, and then there's the fallout. Of
So you
course, the
forget
only one
all
I
about
remember
the
is the
yeah.
climax.
You only remember the
I only remember that one. No one is surprised by that.
Makes
any
sense.
yes.
Makes
Checks
sense to me.
Any other thoughts about this episode before we go into some predictions for the next episode?
No, I think we touched a lot on the thoughts when we were talking about 6 too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, any other do we have any predictions of what's gonna happen next episode? Following action. There we go. Maybe that's it. Something like that.
Do we think that they're all? Obviously, they're all going to go back to the OG galaxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I don't
like
know.
Thrawn is
Are you
back.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna happen next episode. I mean, I feel like it must, because then we have to have Hera and Carson involved again. I don't know. Go ahead, Allison.
Well, I feel like maybe, again, this is, I think, where the sacrifice part comes across. I think somebody may have to stay behind in this new galaxy, so that everyone else can get back to the other galaxy to stop Thrawn. And also, this is way more of a long-term sort of thought or projection. And it's Thrawn himself, because the original story was the only reason Thrawn had come to the galaxy we're used to is because he was coming to enlist the Empire, and not because they were the Empire, just because they were in power. And he, of course, landed when the Republic was still there as well, but because there was something threatening his home galaxy, and they were wanting to ally with the Republic galaxy to fight that threat. And I do know some of the sequel trilogy expanded, like the games and stuff, set up that one of Palpatine's motivations for Death Stars on his part, and the reason the second Death Star was set up with his throne room instead of it being on Coruscant was, one, so he could be anywhere in the galaxy and less trackable, but also so he could defend himself against whatever this threat from this other galaxy is. So, and it's has not been clear to me in Ahsoka that the galaxy we're talking about is the one Thrawn came from. So in theory, there's a third galaxy that we haven't seen yet that has been set up. So I'm trying, watching this, my brain keeps going to like, well, what parts of this are leading directly into sort of the next streaming Star Wars thing, as well as the movie that Dave Filoni is going to do, but also what part of this is setting up sort of this mega big bad that is the whole reason Thrawn came to the galaxy. So like there's some, I'm of course like that's
The
a
whole
lot.
reason why
So,
he came.
Yeah, so and you know, because Thrawn is technically a bad guy, but he's not necessarily
But he's
by
not
design.
evil. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not
Like,
evil. He's a bad
Yeah.
guy because the Empire was the means to his ends.
Yeah.
Like they're in power right now. They have the better opportunity to help. If we line up with them, then we have a better chance against this bigger bad. I could see Thrawn like at the end of Rise of Skywalker, the First Order is done. I guess there's a new Republic. Go figure. So whoever is in charge post Rise of Skywalker, if Thrawn is still with us, possible. That's who he's going to want to line up
but he's
with.
not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. He's classic anti-hero. It's like Boba Fett, but when they actually give us the background of Boba Fett, he's not lame. Like Thrawn, like I know people love Boba Fett,
Shots
but
fired.
he was much cooler to me when he was just an action figure with a couple of scenes where you can make up Boba Fett. I have not been as impressed with spit out by like the sand vagina Boba Fett. We all know what George Lucas was going for
being in a sandy vagina, though. I mean, come on.
Boba Fett, not even Boba Fett. But anyway, George Lucas, where were you he was going through a really bitter divorce at the time of Jedi.
Yeah.
So
Anyways.
But yeah, so Thrawn sort of follows up with that mystery with like the more we know about him, the more complex Thrawn becomes. So like I also like that it's not the Thrawn show where we like clearly Ahsoka, aka Rebels Part 2. This is like the lost season of Rebels. And I'm cool with that.
Season 5.
Season 5. Like they've always said it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So
yes, Hera and Carson are definitely involved.
So this is sort of where but again, this is more Star Wars for the next 10 years. So I'm hoping that it all sticks so that we can get to there, because I think there's a lot of I think this is the other reason I'm feeling really satisfied with Ahsoka as we go, because it feels like it's like an improv. Somebody I was chatting with about Star Wars stuff said this recently, like the biggest mistake that the sequel trilogy made was there were no like what is the improv question, like the way to set up they didn't set up more story with those movies properly. It was like everything, like the end of Force Awakens was such a finite. I think it might have been Chris Plastic when it was on his show. But the end of The Force Awakens, that's a cool moment with her, Rey giving Luke the lightsaber, but it sets up such a specific place you have to start The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi ends in such a specific way that it limits where Rise of Skywalker could start. That
I don't know. The end of Return of the Jedi ended in such a way that you didn't think that.
I literally don't even remember.
Yeah, but at that point, Lucas was like, "I'm not doing any more movies in the future. I hate people after this divorce." Anyhow,
I feel that.
We can't go to my Lucas is a villain phase tonight.
Yeah,
for another night, But yeah, so I feel like Ahsoka, though, is setting up so much more story for people to take and work with without... Yeah. Like, we're getting stuff that sets up the Resistance and the First Order, and we're getting stuff that sets up the New Republic. We literally could get from this 4 really distinctive shows, like whatever is going on with like Shin and like, where the Knights of Ren and the sequel trilogy. Maybe that's where she goes. Maybe she goes and starts that. Like,
did you guys see on Reddit? There's like this whole thing that people are saying that predicting that Shin is going to end up being what's her name? Luke's wife in
Mara Jade.
Mara Jade, yes. Mara Jade, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mara Jade. Possibly, I don't know. Like, she doesn't
see that.
Oh, I don't subscribe to that at all. I just think it's really funny that people get so attached to their theories. They're trying to like shoehorn anything into like the shows.
Well, and she has such a following that like you know, people are going to try to work her in anywhere they can. So I don't know. My prediction is that if they do continue to build from what we're getting, we've got 4 really strong series, a really good movie that could happen, and none of it has to overlap. It could all a cool First Order movie about all of that getting set up, the Resistance.
I
need to do it as a
prefer
cartoon.
Allison, I would prefer to just have more Ahsoka than separate shows with spin-off characters, because that's a lot. Like, let's just
what is, but
all
you know,
one thing.
I want Ahsoka to have I want Ahsoka to have Ahsoka stuff. I don't want necessarily Ahsoka's story to be. Again, I feel like setting her up
not
for the first
Boba Fett.
Yeah, you don't want Ahsoka to turn into Thrawn, right? Like
right.
Yeah, I get that too. I want as much of Ahsoka and these, you know, Rebels characters as possible too. But I think the other thing to keep in mind is, like, I think, you know, the point of all these shows, of the whole Filoniverse, you know, if you will, is to kind of fix the sequel trilogy too, right? Like in the same way that the Clone Wars fixed the prequels.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna see things play out.
That's what they say.
Yeah, right. So they have to try to fix some of these plot holes, or find a way to, like, you know, make the sequels make more sense, or any sense.
Yeah, stupid fan theories.
Yeah,
a fart in the wind. Sorry,
that was a red herring, right? I don't know. I'm still not totally convinced he's going to be meaningless.
I mean, Elton John's already writing a song about him.
Wait, were there other theories? I mean, I know the Merrick theories before he farted away, but is there other theories that he's gonna, like? I tend to ignore those. Like, if he's gonna, like, pop up again, or
I think there's still like that, the secret of, like,
well, they made a whole ass action figure around him, so
which is fine. Like,
it's
okay.
Like him.
It's okay that he has an action figure. You know, he was
so did Boba Fett.
First couple episodes, you know,
and he got way more screen time than Boba Fett did in any of those original movies. Maroke is like,
I honestly don't care either way. Like, it's fun. Yeah, I have no idea. Merrick.
Sorry, I went Game of Thrones with Merrick, but I forgot that I'm in
people
Star
are doing
Wars,
the same with Balin. They're spelling Balin Baelon. I was like, this is not Game of Thrones, people. Or they'll spell it Baylon. I'm like, no, he is Zaddy. He is Baylan. Thank you very much.
So let's make predictions about Balin, because is he? Yes. I mean, the actor has obviously passed away. So do we see his storyline conveniently wrapped up in the end of next episode, or what do we do here? Like, do they recast him if it isn't?
I hope they don't recast. Yeah. I think it will obviously depend what happens next episode, but I mean, if he's still alive and is still going to be in next season, I really hope they don't recast him. There's people that were saying not Kurt Russell. Why am I blanking on his name? Another actor should play him. I'm like, no, it's just like a disservice to how fucking epic he was in this season. And it totally could be a coincidence that he doesn't make it through this season.
I have a feeling, like, I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a moot point at the end of the season.
Yeah,
personally, yeah.
Okay.
Our worst case scenario.
That's a lot that has to happen in one episode now. But I kind of agree.
Worst case scenario, like, whenever the next piece of media happens, Sabine is standing there and somebody Chopper and 3PO rush in with, like, a holographic message from, like, some outpost, like Cara Dune, and they've both been eaten by a space slug. Oh my god, whatever will we do? And it's like, oh no, not Cara Dune. Anyway, this is my theory.
Kurt Russell Crowe. Yeah, Russell Crowe. Thank you. I got one of the names right.
Right?
That's my,
I agree with Chris D'Antonio. He could be a cool character to take to animation if he's not killed off.
Yeah, I mean, like,
he's a cool character in general. He's like the most metal on this show. I know that Johnny was mentioning it before.
Yeah.
I would like to see them.
Awesome.
Like Resistance again. I guess I'm one of 3 people, because I have several of the figures as well, who enjoyed Resistance, but I would like them to bring that back, because I feel like that just got lost in the shuffle of Disney moving everything to Disney Plus. Because it was like on like some sort of maybe ABC Kids streaming or some such. Like it was on the same channel that Rebels had originally been on, and then right when everything started moving to Disney Plus, it got canceled. I would like to, because there were a lot of really, in my opinion, important storylines set up there that we didn't get payoff for. That especially with the lead character's dad being the jerk senator from earlier in the episode. Yeah, so like I would like to see that. And they also, the way they animated a lot of those characters were in line with how the actual voice actors looked. So in theory, we could get some of those characters in live action. You know, and if they did bring back some of the actors that voiced them, it would line up. I don't think the one actor who played the lead has gone back to Days of Our Lives, so I'm sure he's available. But that's kind of, I just want whatever we get next, whatever they set up in the next episode, to be more than just
down
a movie.
for anything.
And I need it to have this energy of, you know, like the reason everyone is attached to the original trilogy, you know, Return of the Jedi's ending notwithstanding, is there was always so much more galaxy to explore. And I think watching Ahsoka and I look back at the prequel trilogy, I feel like part of why some of that didn't land for me is there was such a focus on tying everything in. Like, did we need Kid Boba Fett to show up in Attack of the Clones? Jango Fett was cool. We could have got Jango Fett and just let the Boba Fett stuff just continue to be a mystery. Like, you know, like Padme, we get a definitive death of her through bad writing. But how much cooler would it have been if it ended with Padme and Leia going into hiding separate from Luke to protect, you know, because Vader's going to be looking, because there's references in the Revenge of the Sith to them to her having a boy, that Anakin mentions a boy. So of course Luke, you know, like has to go to Tatooine, the last place that Anakin would ever go because of all the sand. And as Vader, it's going to get into his suit and he's going to have a bad day. Like, the only thing that would, like, the whole battle on Tatooine with Vader, you just stop it by throwing sand into his suit, and as soon as it gets in that's his
kryptonite.
It's over, and then it's like you can hear the sand and like the pipes, and like then he falls over and suffocates. The Force can't help you now, Vader. Anyway, but I think that's also part of why some of the prequels don't play as well for me and now, is because so much of that was Lucas trying to close off story and give definitive answers to things we didn't need a definitive answer about Boba Fett like that. Like, so much of that could have remained off screen in our imaginations. And I think what I want next episode is that, we need some definitive answers for storytelling satisfaction, but I need a lot more open-endedness so that we as Star Wars fans can like spend time making up theories that aren't going to be ruined when the next piece comes along, and that doesn't happen.
Mystery boxy.
Right? Star Wars should be very open-ended in a lot of ways in its storytelling so that we as fans can connect. You know, like there's, you know, like we've gotten endless comics and media to fill in the blank between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, but there were like 3 years in story between those two movies. So like there's all of our action figures. There were many adventures that we all had that will never be uncanonized because they just, you know, like there's that gap 3 years. So I think, I hope that that's the intention. And I hope, and so far, like with Rebels, I feel like Dave Filoni did a pretty good job of that. There's so much adventures of the Rebels characters that we did not get. There are so many side missions that could have happened that you could do a one-off like episode of something where like there's an untold adventure or two. And that's what I need. Like, again, like I won't get into a sequel debate with people because I enjoyed them despite their flaws, in spite of maybe, but also like the very limited storytelling of those movies is the one thing I really do have an issue with. There is just no room between the end of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi for you to imagine anything beyond those movies in that universe. So it's too limited. So I hope they carry that forward because I feel like that's here. Like, we may never find out Merrick still. Like, why is he just green gas in the air? And that's okay. Like, if we get to make up our stories around that, good for us. Headcanon is the way to go.
Totally. Agreed. Any final thoughts, predictions, theories, questions about Ahsoka? Nope.
Not really. I'm enjoying the show overall. Like, I truly am. Ahsoka's my favorite character, so.
Love. Yeah. Agreed.
Yoko, are you wearing Ahsoka's lightsaber on your necklace?
I am, yes.
Okay, I know you work for Rock of Love, right?
Yeah,
Is that?
Rock
I
of,
have the ring. I have the ring. Yeah. Oh, that's
Ring
cool.
Oh my god. Twitted.
Real quick before
Love
we
that.
wrap up, I had a question for Yoko because before these streams, you had not come across my YouTube screen. And you had mentioned that for you, Star Wars is more about sort of the newer stuff, like the original trilogy isn't a thing for you the same way it is for us. And so I did wonder, like, how is sort of this newer Star Wars stuff opening up the older stuff for you, or is it still just?
No, totally. So it was just I didn't grow up with Star Wars. I didn't, like my parents weren't into it. Like I just didn't grow up watching it. It wasn't anything I actively, avoided. But then it was when I was working at Funko at the time, leading up to the release of The Force Awakens. So, obviously a big deal. And I was like, okay, maybe it's time for me to finally watch these movies. So it was like, in the time leading up to the release of Force Awakens was when I finally sat down and watched the movies, and I enjoyed them. But when I saw Force Awakens, like I loved Rey, and that was when I fell in love with Star Wars. Really was with Force Awakens, and then I went back, and when I watched Clone Wars, like I loved Ahsoka, and Rebels. And Rebels, when I watched Rebels, became my favorite Star Wars story. So, so like it was without working at Funko and having that excitement, just of the big Force Awakens launch, and what was it, Force Friday, or like all that stuff. Like that's what catapulted me into that fandom. But Force Awakens is what really took me from then being like a casual, I like Star Wars, to like, okay, now I love Star Wars.
Cool.
Definitely.
I
just went all in.
Yeah. I mean, I had a very similar experience. I watched the movies growing up, but like my parents are not fans of sci-fi and fantasy, but I was like very into Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, and I was just like, I like can't do another fandom. And I would watch them every once in a while, and I don't think it was until Force Awakens that I started to get into Star Wars more. I was like, okay, it's time.
Interesting.
I guess I'll have to invite you on, so you have to watch Lord of the Rings. But I mean, I always liked Star Wars. I just like didn't get into it as much. I also had exes both in high school and college who were like super into Star Wars, and I like, post breakup, I was like, fuck Star Wars. So that also put me off for some time, but I mean, I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't until Force Awakens that I got more into it, and now I will be meeting Mark Hamill in like less than 60 days, which is crazy. So
that's cool.
Very excited about that. We'll see. I'm meeting both him and Shatner and the 4 Hobbits in one weekend. It is going to be
What are you going to do that?
Fan Expo SF is
okay.
Yeah, they're getting all the big guns. It's kind of insane. It's pretty much gonna be like a mini SDCC, but like you still have to pay to meet these people, which
Yeah, that's
you
fun
know,
though. That's
YOLO.
awesome.
Especially
my
Shatner. He's 92.
my recommendation is meet Shatner first, because he's the one most likely to be disappointing.
Well, he's only there one day, which is Sunday.
I say that
It
as somebody
actually-
who was an extra on Miss Congeniality, and I was an extra one of the days he was there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
Wait.
Yep.
Shut up.
Here she
That's
is.
how I knew Shatner was from Miss Congeniality.
Yep, I did, like in the beginning
Amazing.
when they're at that bar and like, well, the Russian restaurant, and you can see a taxi cabs driving by outside. I was driving one of the cabs, and
Oh my
also later in that scene where like Benjamin Bratt is out in the alley, and you can see like passing cars on his face. I was the passing car. And then we were in the dance club.
Benjamin Bratt too.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't know who Benjamin Bratt was until he caught us rating craft services, and he was like, "You guys are doing great out here," and I was like, "You were doing so good in there." And I looked at the girl next to me.
Doing great, sweetie.
I was like, "Who is this?" And she's like sitting there like, "Oh my God, what?" And I was like, "You're doing great. Have you been doing extra work long?" And he, of course, he realized then I didn't know who the heck he was.
That is so funny. But you knew he was like a star of the show.
I knew
right?
his name. I knew his name.
Okay.
And because he was dating Julia Roberts, and I had an
that's
unfortunate
right.
incident.
Brad is so fucking hot.
Because I lived in that area when she was married. When she was married to Lyle Lovett, I lived in that area. And I ran into her one day at the grocery store while buying yogurt. And it was everything you don't want meeting a celebrity to be. I think the actual quote was, "Oh my God, I love that yogurt also, Miss Julia." Mm-hmm. And then I ran. And then so for the rest of the night, I was the person that every time she would turn down an aisle, I would run.
Oh.
So yeah. Anyway. But yeah, like I was in the audience. I was in the audience for the it's the perfect day. All you need is a light sweater. It killed live, even though we heard it like 45 effing times. But between seeing shot
and it's not too cold.
Yeah, right. It killed live. It killed on screen. It is part of for that reason as well. But he was not. I hope he's nicer to you than he was to everybody on that movie.
According to Johnny, he's chilled out because he is indeed 92, which is also, I was like, I'm new to Star Trek, but also like
that's still old.
Could be any could be any day now.
Yeah, so, don't push me, Shatner, because if I push you, it's not gonna go as well.
Yeah. As far as like I first watched Star Wars when I was in 7th grade, and then just kind of loved it. And I went to theater camp when I was 12, 13 years old, and I met a girl there who her name was Margot, and she lived in the same town as my grandparents, and she had, she was also the same age as me, wall to wall, just Star Wars books. Her and her parents were just hardcore fans. And that was when I realized, like, you could be this into something. Like, there's a beyond, like, just the movies. And yeah. Sometimes I wonder, I think of her and I'm like, I wonder what that girl Margot, who I never saw again after camp, but I had a sleepover at her house. I wonder, like, did she love them too? Is she watching it out there in the great somewhere out there? Sorry.
Love that. You're fine. Yeah, it's so interesting how everyone, any, fandom that we're into, it's very interesting how we got into them because it's all very different. But anyways, I was going to do another segment, but I kind of have to go soon. So, but as we do at the end of any Star Trek Retrek episode, we like to do spoilers without context and memes as well. So, my wonderful co-host Johnny is behind the scenes, and he is going to pull them up for me because Lord knows we would have a problem if I tried to share my screen because, Murphy's Law, and we don't need to accidentally see things.
No telling what you're watching.
This was the one that I made for episode 7. And I love the very obvious spoilers
Ah.
without context where they literally just put the character in, because unless you've watched
Right.
the episode, I mean, you may not assume that 3PO's in it. And then, yeah, the armadillo for little armadillo homes, slingshot, and then, yeah, the epic Gandalf coming or charging at Helm's Deep into the crowd, which is very Ahsoka charging in on her howler to save the day. Science folder. Yes, we don't want to see my science folder. And then this was my one for episode 6, which I had to put in Bad Dog because for some reason there wasn't a specific one that said Bad Dog with Cosmo, and a golden face because of Enoch and the Kintsugi troopers. And then also we were talking about Frozen before, the little troll guys from Frozen, and then of course the turtle crabs. So
Yeah.
had to do TMNT. And then, oh yes, we all freaked out when we heard the line a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That thing, Skarn. Yes, love The Office. Yeah, for Shin Hottie. Don't mind a little bit of choking there.
A little bit.
Yes. Ahsoka dunking on Andor. We'll have to see. I will keep my opinions reserved until the end of next episode because I loved Andor, so we'll see how it does. And then
They're on the same
Sanderson
team,
sisters.
There's no dunking on anyone.
I
They're on
know.
the same-
I know. I just mean in terms of like what series I like more. The Sanderson sisters and Enoch and his golden face again. Independence Day, and I am forgetting the name of this character. Please someone help me. I want to say Squirtle, but it's not Squirtle.
Oh,
all I know is if you if you jump on it, the shell flies and it can kill you. So don't do that.
Yoko, did you say who it is?
Oh yeah, the Koopa Troopa.
That. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. Elon? I love these references that he looks like Elon. Not wrong. Not wrong, indeed.
I will say, though, Thrawn could probably make a social media platform work. So I'm just saying.
That's true. This is true. Yeah,
Teenage Mutant Ninja
Snurtles. Koopa Troopa.
That's a toy line waiting to happen.
Yeah, I forget who said it earlier, but they're like, I like how they have clothes when you live in a zombie army. So true. Gotta Febreze that shit all the time. You have a ship, right? Right? Yeah, she just like
it's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah, it's also fine. Let's just work out.
Also, just for a moment, let's appreciate how Star Wars Sabine looks in like that shot on the bottom. Like that's just such a Star Wars, such a Leia, Rey, Padme. Like I have it covered. Look, like don't worry about it. Like. Perfect.
Totally. Yes. Once again, Sanderson sisters
works for
going
me.
Hard, doing their great work. I need to watch Hocus Pocus. I haven't watched it yet. This spoopy season. When she says she likes Star Wars too, the amount I don't know who approved this imagery. But
the Star Wars boner. The boner ship. The boner ship.
Because it literally looks like balls too. And it's going into the ship's bussy. So who approved this is my question. There's several of these memes, by the way. Yeah. Thrawn waiting to be rescued from exile. Just chilling. Oh yeah, this is honestly the most Sabine and Ezra image ever. They are perfect. Yeah, I loved it. They had a lot of great moments this episode. Oh yeah, just toss away the saber. Rick would have been so excited. Space docking, so hot. Exactly. Yes. Luke and Leia sending their droids on delivery because they're too busy to do it themselves. So true. So true. Her master was General Anakin Skywalker? What?
Did you see that thing that somebody put together with Oppenheimer and like the faces he's making to the music, and it's like
Yes.
Thrawn when he realizes?
I think it was either Vactor or Holdo Maneuver posted that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
good.
retweeted it whenever it came out, but it's so funny. I've rewatched it like 5 times. I think it's hilarious.
So good. Is that the end of them? I guess it is. There is no more. That is it.
Well, good one.
I don't
Thank
know.
you.
I'm not controlling it, but that is your spoilers without context and memes. I wish I could have found more, but life happens. But anyways, this has been super fun chatting with y'all about Ahsoka. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
You guys are delayed again. So when your mouth stops moving, like for me. So Kayla's mouth is moving now, but she's not talking. So I'm so sorry. I keep interrupting. I'm getting very thrown off by the visual. See, now your mouth is not moving on my screen, but you're talking.
I'm just going to talk through my teeth so you don't know if I'm talking or not.
Hey, can you Sherry Lewis it, please?
That's what I literally just did. Oh my god, I'm dead. No, you're fine. But anyways, why don't y'all tell everyone here where they can find you? Allison, if you want to go first.
Okay. I am on Instagram under Allison underscore Troy.
Where am I?
Right? Oh my god.
I do the same thing. I'm like, you put me on the spot. I freeze.
Where are we going? Why are we in this basket? Anyway, yeah, Instagram Allison underscore Troy. Sort of my overarching everything. And then you can find me on YouTube under Retro Toy Princess, where I've got content. Star Wars. I've my shorts. There's Star Wars content. It's all OT and a Queen Amidala, because nobody likes the other stuff. So yeah, you can find me at least that are watching shorts. So anyway, that's where you can find me. And please do.
Yeah, and everyone, as Johnny just mentioned, everyone's links are in the description below if you want to click on those. Yoko, what about you? And you can anything find me, you got coming up too?
Yeah, at Yoko McCann on Instagram and YouTube. LivinLaVidaYoko on Twitch. You can catch me with Boba Squadron on Tuesday. So this Tuesday's episode, we'll watch it right when it drops at 6:00 Pacific time, and then you can find us over on Toying Around's channel at 7 Pacific time, approximately. Unless it's a long episode, which I'm really hoping for that it'll be later.
Yes.
And then we'll break down the episode. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
And make sure to get your boba to drink with it too.
Yes.
Come on, people. Yes. I can't be the only one doing this.
Yeah.
What about you, Colleen?
You can find me on the things, like everybody else. I'm on Twitter, Colleen84, and that's my Insta. I also do a podcast called The Broadcast with Amanda Shandy and Colleen, that comes out weekly.
Super fun.
I'm places. I also have a handle, Geek Dad Wife, which I keep forgetting to use, but it's there. So
yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if I should tag you in that one or the other one.
Yeah, I'm so bad at social media nowadays. Like 2020 just kind of killed my social media, whatever. Like I check things maybe once a day, and I rarely check messages. I have push notifications turned off. So I'm so sorry, guys. I'm very terrible at that. It's not that I don't love you. It's just that I don't check things. Because now I have like, my mom will send me all like the hippy dippy healing crystal bullshit stuff that she sends me, like how to parent your young boys and trust in God to do the same thing. So like, I just kind of just ignore a lot of things on my socials.
That is fair.
It's true though. I've got like 3 of them on Instagram that are unread from her right now.
That's amazing.
Is it though?
Yeah, opposite of amazing.
But I'm there.
I guess.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of Discord this morning.
Oh, I was wondering why you made that comment.
Yeah, I got kicked
Also,
out.
I purposely did this because I hate like how, you know, articles will say like George Clooney's wife. So like Colleen is Jay Gladfelter of GDL's Geek Dad Life's wife, FYI. But I wanted to purposely
yeah,
exactly. Yes. I don't know what I just said. Because I hate when articles are like, oh, like George Clooney's wife or whatever, and I'm just like, no, she is her own person.
Amal's a human rights lawyer. She is like way cooler than he is.
So
that
is why if anyone was
very
curious.
Unfortunate. Then I got back in. I don't know what happened. I logged in and it was just like, you have been banned from Discord for blah blah blah, and I was like, what?
Like all of Discord or just
all of Discord? Like it was on the app on the computer. I went in through the web and I was just like, what is going on?
What did you
and
do?
It was like you have to you have to set up two-factor authentication. So I tried to do that and then it froze and crashed. And I was like, okay, well clearly that's not working. And it was like, reach out. So I have 3 Discord servers I'm a part of. I check each one of them maybe once a week. I'm very terrible at that too. But like, so I was trying to I was like, okay, who reported me? Like, who got me kicked out? And it was like, you have to notify an owner of something to let you back in. So I was like, oh, well, I happen to know an owner. Can you please let me back in? And he's like, I just shut my laptop and put it away, but maybe I'll do it later. And I was like, now that I don't have it, I want it. So then at some point, he said I was not dangerous, and then all of a sudden I got let back into everything. I don't know.
That was like how when John first joined, it showed that he was like a spam or bot or something, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
Discord's funny. Discord's funny like that though. And then I know I think it was on someone else's Discord that I guess if you like re-click on the email again from like Patreon or wherever, that like it'll log you out and come back on.
Oh,
Hi,
really?
Brick. Yeah, you will appreciate the meme that we just showed not that long ago. So then all of a sudden, especially on the ones that have bots that automatically say hi to people, they'll come back in, it'll be like, hi, and people say hi, and I'm like, I've actually been here this whole time. It just kicked me out for whatever reason. But anyways, thanks again for joining. It's been so much fun. Everyone, thanks for watching in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay, appreciate that. Make sure to smack that like, smack that subscribe, smack that bell icon, and do the same with Allison and Yoko, and can follow the broadcast. don't want to snack you personally. But yeah, make sure to check everything out. And I think that's it. If you want to follow us on social media, it is at GTFO channel. And if you want to email us, it is channelgtfo@gmail.com. And thanks everyone for geeking the F out with us. Bye,
Thanks
y'all.
for having us. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.